Hello, in this video I will show you how to use N8N with unlimited automations completely for free, without any restrictions. As you can see in pricing, the starter is 20 euros a month with 5 active workflows and 2500 executions. But you can self-host N8N, which means that you can run it on your computer. But the thing is that if you turn off your computer, then N8N will be turned off as well. So the automations will work only when you start the N8N on your computer. And then when you turn it off, the automations don't work. So what people do is they host N8N on the external servers. You can use, for example, DigitalOcean for that. And the pricing here is much less than if you buy the cloud version of N8N. But here in this video I will show you how you can start with N8N completely for free, and you will be able to use N8N for unlimited amount of automations without any restrictions. For that we'll be using render.com, and we'll be using Supabase as a database. So first thing that we need to do is we need to sign up in Render. You click on Get Started and you create your account here. So here you see that I already have the N8N service running, but you shouldn't see anything here. For you have to click on the new button over here and you have to create a new web service. Here we will be using the Docker image of N8N. So I click on the existing image and here I write N8N IO/N8N. We see the green mark, that means that the image has been recognized. So now we click on connect. I pick free here, and for now we will go without any variables. Just click on create service. It will take some time for Render to deploy this service for you, and you will see all logs here. So for me I had to wait around 2 minutes or even less. And the moment I see this line, your service is live, I can go ahead and click on this link over here, which is our address for N8N. I click on it and I see that the N8N has been successfully installed. So I will set up my owner account and I already can use N8N. But still, if you create a webhook, you will see that you have this address, localhost 5678. So we still are not able to receive any webhooks. What we have to do is we have to go back and we have to go to the environment. So here in the environment we have to fill in the variables. For example, one of the variable would be N8N host, and the other variable would be webhook URL. So for that I need to copy this link. I will paste it completely to the webhook URL, and I will paste it also to the N8N host, but I will remove the HTTPS. When I click on Save Changes, one thing will happen. The redeployment will be initiated. Render will start to redeploy our image. And again I see your service is live. I can click on this link again. So now it's completely deployed, and as you can see, I have lost all the data that I had with the redeployment. For now, let's just create again the owner account and check our webhooks. So if I create a webhook, I will see that the address has changed. I will create a webhook and I will create a webhook response. Here I will pick the custom JSON and this will be fine. So webhook is something that initiates your workflow. For example, if you have a Telegram bot, it will also use webhooks, but will be within Telegram node here inside the triggers on message. So whenever your Telegram bot receives a new message, it sends the webhook. So webhooks are very important. I will change here respond to using the respond webhook node. I click on test workflow, and now I try to access this webhook and I see the result. So this is the values that I have set here, and I see that the execution was successful. That means that webhooks are working. But now we have still one problem. So we have two problems actually. One problem is that whenever the environment is restarted, I lose all the data, so all my automations will be lost and my owner's account will be lost as well. I will have to sign up to my own instance every time with an owner account, and I will have to create all the automations from the beginning. And since we're using the free render plan, our environments, our instances will be spinned down due to inactivity. So let's say every 20 minutes, if no automation fired for your instance, it will be taken down. And if you try to access it, then it will start again, and it will take some time to work, around 50 seconds. And after that, you'll have to sign up again and do all your automations again. But you can already use this setup to play around with N8N if you are new to it and experiment with it. This is completely fine. Just keep in mind that all your automations will be lost after inactivity. So first, how to fix the data persistence. By default, N8N Docker image, if I click on it and go to overview, it uses SQLite database. SQLite database is a simple file inside the container that stores all your data. And since your container is wiped out after inactivity, your data is lost. If we scroll down, we have here persist data. What they recommend to do here is that you create a storage inside your server that stores this SQLite database. In order for us to do this, we have to go to disks in render, and unfortunately render charges for the disk space, which we don't want to do. Next option would be to use the other database. They propose to use PostgreSDB here, which will work for us. So in order to connect the Postgres database, we have to provide these variables to our environment over here, the same way as we did with hosts and webhook URL. But where do we get the free instance of the Postgres database? For that, we use this tool called Supabase. Supabase also has a pricing plan, and it will work perfectly for us. Also, in the products and in the databases, they have just Postgres, which is exactly what we need. So go ahead and click on Start Your Project. Once you're in the dashboard, you can create a new project. I will call it N8N. And the database password you have to type and you have to remember it. So I just generated the password and I copied it. It will take some time to spin up your project. So now that it's finished, we go to database and we see that we don't have any tables yet. We can go to project settings, click on database, and here we see the connection details that we need. So we go back to render, we're in the environment, and we create a new environmental variable. So first thing I want to fill in would be the password for the database so that I don't lose it. I created a new variable and I go to Docker image page on Docker Hub, scroll down to the Postgres. These are all the variables that we need to fill. First variable I copy is db Postgres db password. I add a new variable, db database, and I copy the database name from the settings in Supabase. I do the same for the host, copy the host, port, user, schema. So schema is public, by the way, always public. And I add one last variable, the first one, db type, so that N8N knows what database to use. Otherwise, even if you filled everything out without the db type, it will use SQLite, and db type we copy directly from Docker manual. I click on Save Changes, and the image will be again redeployed. I see a service is live again. We click on the link. We have to wait a little bit, and now I have it. So again, I'm prompted to create an owner account. That's because the previous instance used SQLite, and I can go to my database. Now I click on the table edit. I see that all these tables have been created by N8N. For example, I click on user. I see the user has been created, but the email and all the data is empty. So if I create a new account here, the user is created and I should see the update in here. Now, if I redeploy it again and reload my setup, I'm not prompted to create a new user because the database is stored separately and the data is persistent. And the data is persistent even after the render image has been redeployed. I can create an automation just to make sure that things are working. So it's again a webhook. Save it, I activate it, and I copy the production URL. If I try to access it, it says N8N works. In the executions, I see that it's been executed. And if I redeploy again, so let's say your instance has been inactive for some time and render turn it down, and now it will turn it on, we will still have all our automations persistent. You see, when I redeploy it, now it tells me that some of the workflows should be active, and it starts these workflows. This is my one automation that I had with the webhooks, and it's now started. So if I go back again to this webhook and I reload the page, I see the same result. And if I reload this page, I see a bunch of executions here. Now this already is good enough for you, no restrictions for you, and it's for free. But we still have this thing that instance will spin down due to inactivity. And what happens is that basically instead of manual deploy, it's automatically being turned off, and then when someone tries to access the webhook, it starts to deploy again. And that will cause us losing some data, because most likely during this inactivity period, when I try to access this webhook, I will not receive and I will not see any data, or I will receive it after a minute of waiting. You can avoid this if you have a lot of automations and they constantly fire every 15, 10, I don't know, 20 minutes. That means that the service will be active all the time and render will not have to turn it down. So with that, we have a perfect free setup of N8N. But there is one restriction. One restriction that I didn't mention before is that you are not able to work with files. So you're not able to read and write files to your disk, because basically you don't have a disk here. Once you feel that you have a lot of automations and you would rather pay for some server or pay to render so that it has the disks, and you feel that you don't want your server to be spin down every 20 minutes due to inactivity, and once you decide that you want more, you can just move to DigitalOcean server, or you can start a new plan in render. I think it's called starter plan. That will allow you the access to the disks, and you will always have your data with you because you host it completely separately in Supabase, which for you will not have any restrictions because you will be using N8N for your automations, and from what we know, the free plan works completely fine for that, for infinite amount of time. So that's it for this video. If you found the content helpful, consider subscribing, leave a comment. I will make more content on N8N soon.